Hey everyone, we hope you're ready for a challenge because today's update preview will cover Teleria's newest clan boss, the Chimera. We've already talked a little bit about the Chimera in the latest What's Next in Raid video, but now we're going to do a deep dive. We'll cover the Chimera's strengths and weaknesses, offer some tactical tips, and find out what rewards you can earn. The Chimera is available to all players who are level 33 or above and part of a clan. There are 6 difficulties and will require Chimera keys to fight it. Same as with other clan bosses, the entire clan will fight against the Chimera to deal damage and earn points to get rewards. If the Chimera's HP hits 0, everyone gets double the rewards. Now then, let's discover what skills the Chimera has. When the battle begins, the Chimera will always start in its ultimate form. Its default skill, Baleful Torrent, hits your whole team, placing a provoke for 1 turn and a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. If any of your team have less than 50% HP, their provoke debuffs will last for 2 turns instead. Having high resistance on your champions or a block debuffs buff on your cleanser will help a bunch. Pincer Lash is the ultimate form's 2nd skill, and it's another AoE attack. This one increases the damage dealt by 10% for each active debuff on the Chimera and places an increased speed buff on itself. Time your debuffs carefully, keep an eye on that cooldown, and you may get away unscathed. Here's one you won't escape. The ultimate form's 3rd skill is Consume Matter. It'll remove all buffs from your champions, then attack your team and increase the damage dealt by 10% for each buff removed. This is going to hurt, but you can decide how much by managing your buffs. Now, on to passive skills. The ultimate's form Transfixing Presence passive skill means it takes 10% less damage for each champion on the field with no buffs, stacking up to 50%. It also receives 50% less damage from enemies under provoke debuffs. That's a lot of damage reduction. It's a fine balance between getting your buffs up to prevent the damage reduction and not having them out for the ultimate form to take advantage of. Next up, we've got Savage Evolution. Remember earlier we mentioned trials? Well, the more you complete, the better your rewards. But it's not that simple. The more you complete, the stronger the Chimera's ultimate form becomes. For instance, once you've completed 3 trials, the ultimate form will start ignoring unkillable buffs and gain a small bonus to its attack stat. If you manage to complete all 27 trials, it'll ignore most protective buffs, 100% of a target's defense, and receive huge increases to its attack, crit rate, and crit damage. The ultimate form is called that for a reason. It's a monster, and will become absolutely brutal by the end of the fight. Like most other bosses, the Chimera's ultimate form is immune to crowd control debuffs. Some of the other forms have exceptions, but we'll get into those as we cover them. The ultimate form also can't have its turn meter decreased. It's an unstoppable force of nature. So how can you stop it? You'll need a cleanser with high resistance to get rid of those provoke debuffs. Otherwise, your damage dealers will suffer. Don't place too many debuffs on the Chimera either. Otherwise, you'll get stung by the Pincer Lash skill. Focus on placing decrease attack, decrease crit rate, and decrease crit damage to mitigate as much damage as possible. Then finally, we come to the ultimate form's last passive, Unholy Metamorph. This passive skill is shared between all forms. It'll remove all buffs and debuffs from the Chimera and change into a different form every 5 of its turns. Let's jump into the Chimera's next form, the Ram. Its attacks are focused and fierce, made more powerful by its brand new effect, Duel. The Chimera will challenge the enemy champion with the lowest crit damage to single combat, placing it under the Duel effect. A dual progress bar, equal to 1% of the Chimera's max HP, will appear, and all other champions will only deal half damage until it's depleted or the challenged champion dies. Now we know a little bit more about how duel works, we can see how the Chimera takes advantage of it. The Ram form's default skill is Monstrous Stomp, and will attack 2 times at random. Don't get complacent though. The first hit will prioritize attacking your champion under the duel effect. Each hit will also decrease the target's turn meter by 50%. And if the target's turn meter is less than 50%, the Chimera will place a stun debuff too. Oh, and in case that wasn't enough, the Chimera will get an extra turn if it places a stun debuff. You'll need high resistance, block debuffs, or intercept stacks to help resist the stun debuffs if your champion's turn meters aren't filled enough. Another Chimera turn also means one less turn to complete your trials, and you definitely don't want that. The ram form's second skill is Hammer Tail Quake, and it's pretty nasty. It'll attack one enemy, then follow that up by attacking all other enemies. The damage to all other enemies increases by 1% for every 1% of HP lost by the initial target, stacking up to 50%. Then there's stun debuffs coming for everyone except the initial target, and if they block or resist it, they're getting a 50% turn meter decrease. As if high damage and a mass stun wasn't enough, the ram form will then do away with any block debuffs buffs on your team and place debuffs to drop their crit rate, crit damage, and speed. High resistance will work a treat here, but have a cleanser standing by ready just in case. Maiming Stampede is the ram form's third skill and only targets one champion. Unfortunately, that's about the end of the good news. Before attacking, it'll remove all buffs and replace them with their mirrored debuff equivalent, and increase the damage inflicted by 10% for each buff converted. But wait, it gets even worse. If the damage dealt exceeds 20% of the target's max HP, the Chimera will repeat the attack again and again until your poor champion is trampled into the ground. Make sure the Chimera has decreased attack and decreased crit damage debuffs so it's not hitting hard enough to build up a head of steam. On to the passives. First up, we have Unbreakable Focus, where the Chimera will reflect 25% of any damage received back to the attacker, unless they're under the duel effect. It'll also ignore 50% of a champion's defense if they're under taunt or veil buffs too, so avoid placing them. The active part of this passive skill enables the Chimera to reflect any debuffs back to the producer once every 4 turns. Bait it into a cooldown with a non-essential debuff placement. Then start placing the debuffs that really matter. However, it's not all doom and gloom. The ram form does have a weakness. It's susceptible to fear and true fear debuffs. And thanks to its Lockhorn's passive, as long as it's under one of those debuffs, the damage reduction from the dual effect is negated. The chance of the Chimera missing a turn is decreased by 25%, and should that happen, the Chimera's turn meter will be filled by 50%. Oh, and any fear or true fear debuffs will then be instantly removed. The final part of the Lockhorn's passive ensures that the Chimera places the dual effect on an enemy with the lowest crit damage, and it cannot be blocked or resisted. That's everything for the ram form, so it's metamorph time. The lion form is the most devastating of the Chimera's forms, built solely for damage. Before we jump into its active skills, we need to talk about the Predator's Feast passive. At the beginning of its turn, the lion form will place a Hunter's Gaze debuff on the enemy with the highest defense for 3 turns. It can't be blocked or resisted, which is really bad news. Damage dealt to champions under a Hunter's Gaze debuff cannot be decreased, blocked, redirected, or transferred. You're definitely taking a hit. That's not all. It will ignore unkillable, block damage, increased defense, strengthen, ally protection, veil, perfect veil, and shield buffs. That is truly scary stuff. Here's a couple handy tips though. Champions like Loki can still evade the Chimera's damage. And Taunt will distract the Chimera to save a champion under a Hunter's Gaze debuff from being mauled. It's up to you whether you wait the debuff out or remove it, but be aware. Removing a Hunter's Gaze debuff will instantly activate the Lion form's first skill, Annihilation Claw. But what does Annihilation Claw do? Great question. It'll attack one enemy 2 times, with each hit having a 50% chance to place a True Fear debuff for 1 turn. The rest of your team doesn't get away unscathed, though. After the first attack, the Chimera then has an 80% chance of repeating the attack against a new target. After that, it'll have a 60% chance of repeating the attack against a new target, and so on. Even if the Chimera misses its 80% chance against the second target, it could still hit the 20% chance against the 5th target, so no one is truly safe. Oh, and the damage inflicted by each successful attack is decreased by 10%, so it's hitting less hard at least. The Lion form's second skill, Shred Reality, sees it attack one enemy 3 times. The first 2 hits place decreased defense and weakened debuffs, and the third hit then applies a debuff spread effect, taking those aforementioned debuffs and placing them on all enemies except the initial target. Once it's set the field, the Lion form will then attack all enemies, except the initial target, but only if they're under decreased defense or weakened debuffs. To round things off, the Chimera will increase its own turn meter by 5%. For each debuff placed and spread by this skill. Tip time. The initial target can't hide behind any block debuff's buffs, but the other champions can. Protect your champions and mitigate that damage. Atomizing Roar is the lion form's final active skill, and it's a doozy. The Chimera will remove any decrease attack, decrease crit rate, and decrease crit damage debuffs from itself before unleashing a devastating attack on a single target. It'll ignore 50% of the target's defense, as well as an additional 10% for each debuff removed at the start of the skill. If it kills the target, the Chimera will get an extra turn. But if the initial target survives, the Chimera will attack all other enemies, dealing damage equal to 50% of the damage inflicted by the initial attack. Good news, though. That second attack cannot be critical. Finally, some respite. High damage is all well and good, but here's the lion form's weakness. It receives 5 times more damage from Pain Link and Reflect damage buffs or effects. Make sure you've got someone who can place these on your team and turn the lion form's power against itself. The fourth and final form of the Chimera is the Viper, and you won't be surprised to learn it's all about poisons. We'll start with the Deathly Contagion passive, as the Viper brings another new debuff, Necrosis. As the name suggests, you'll receive damage based on how many of your allied champions are dead at the start of a turn. For each dead allied champion, your alive champions will receive 1 Necrosis stack. Necrosis stacks cannot be blocked, resisted, or cleansed by usual methods. The only way to remove Necrosis stacks is to revive your fallen friends. With that in mind, let's move on to the Viper form's default skill, Putrid Fang. It's an AoE attack that places an extra hit if the initial hit kills an enemy, or if there are any dead champions already on the field. Putrid Fang also has a 50% chance to place a random crowd control debuff on each of your champions for 1 turn as well. So high resistance is a must. The Viper form's second skill is Stinger Cyclone, another AoE attack. This will deal single target damage to each target individually rather than AoE damage, so any effects that decrease AoE damage will be useless. Your champions will receive a Hex and a 100% heal reduction debuff before being attacked, but it's what comes after you really need to worry about. It'll instantly activate all poison debuffs on all enemies twice, and transfer all debuffs from the Chimera to all enemies under Hex or heal reduction debuffs placed by Stinger Cyclone. Just to top it off, the Chimera will then increase its own turn meter by 5% for each debuff transferred. Block debuffs is your best bet for avoiding the Hex and heal reduction. Failing that, control the number of debuffs you place on the Chimera. The Viper form's final active skill is Haze of Pestilence, and it takes poisons to a whole new level. Before unleashing an AoE attack, the Chimera will steal all your champions' buffs, except continuous heal buffs. Then it brings the pain, with 3 5% poison debuffs and a 25% poison sensitivity debuff for 3 turns. Not content to just place them though, the Chimera will then increase the duration of all poison debuffs on all enemies by 1 turn, and then instantly activate all poison debuffs for good measure. Needless to say, it's gonna hurt. But the good news is that these debuffs can be resisted. Place decrease accuracy debuffs and make sure your champions have high resistance. Finally, here's the Viper form's other passive, Enemy of Mortality. The active part of this passive lets Chimera deny 1 enemy revival attempt. If you're reviving a single ally, it'll get blocked. And if you're attempting to revive multiple allies, only 1 will be denied. The passive part of this skill ensures that any revived allies are brought back with 25% less HP and 25% less turn meter. It's rough out there. Don't try to out-poison this mephitic monster either. It'll transfer all poison debuffs from itself to all enemies at the start of its turn, and all transfer debuffs will last for 2 turns. However, there's hope. The Viper form is susceptible to block active skills debuffs, so you can mitigate the amount of damage it can do to your team. Be careful though, whenever the Viper form kills an enemy, it will remove any block active skills debuffs from itself. Survival is everything here. Whew. That's a lot of skills to contend with. Now we've covered that, let's talk trials some more. These challenges can be completed once per Chimera battle, and even though they are optional, they will net you some sweet rewards. You can view the trials at any point during the battle if you tap on the trials icon beneath the Chimera's HP bar. There's 27 in total, 9 for each of the Ram, Lion, and Viper forms. Within those 9, there's 3 easy, 3 normal, and 3 hard trials. They will also scale in difficulty according to the difficulty of the fight itself. Trials fought on Ultra Nightmare are harder than trials fought on normal. Here's how it works. At the start of the battle, you'll have 3 easy trials to complete. Once you've completed one of them, it'll change to a normal trial, and completing that will change it to a hard trial. So don't worry about completing all easy trials in order to unlock normal trials. When you open the Trials tab, you can also check out each difficulty's trial and see what awaits you further into the battle. The trials themselves differ from form to form. For instance, you might need to damage the ram form while it's under a fear or true fear debuff, or you might need to resist 12 debuffs from the Viper form while it's under a decrease accuracy debuff. In short, you're going to need a variety of champions with wide-ranging skill coverage and suitable gear. And remember, the more trials you complete, the more ferocious the Chimera's ultimate form becomes. Get ready to take some punishment if you want to complete all the trials. Now comes everyone's favorite bit, rewards. Just like other clan bosses, dealing enough damage to the Chimera will earn you a Chimera chest. Getting the Chimera's HP down to 0 means everyone who contributed gets double the chests. Within those chests, you'll find ocular masses. These are special crafting materials that you can use in the forge to craft relics from the Chimera group. You'll also find star stones to level your relics up, basalt to increase a relic's rank, circular gemstones to slot into your relics, and more. That's not everything either. You'll also have a chance to get champion fragments for a brand new mythical champion, Empress the Anomaly. On top of that, you'll also get immediate rewards after each Chimera battle, depending on how many trials you manage to complete. These rewards include more ocular masses of varying rarities, gemstones, and the basalt. Everything you need for more awesome relics. We're also introducing the Chimera Clash from the start of this clan boss's tenure in Teleria. The core mechanics are similar to the Hydra Clash. 5 clans will duke it out each week to earn Clash points and scramble to finish in the top 3 positions. But the way multipliers work will be drastically different. This time, pure damage isn't the only approach. Completing trials as fast as possible will be your best bet to pull the clan through, because each trial you close in a battle will increase your Clash points multiplier, meaning that if player A completed all 27 trials and dealt 1,000,000 points of damage, they'll earn way more Clash points than player B, who dealt 3,000,000 points of damage but only closed 10 trials. Keep in mind that the improved multipliers you earn by completing trials will only apply to the damage you deal after the fact, but that's still plenty. Multipliers will also be applicable to each battle, no matter how many keys you spend on a particular difficulty. So don't worry about the higher milestone numbers you see. They are balanced to keep the Chimera's specific mechanics in mind. If you earned enough points individually, and your clan finished in one of the top 3 positions, you'll earn Chimera Clash chests. Within those chests, you'll find more gemstones, basalt, clan XP, and clan gold to spend on goodies in the clan shop. Wow! That's everything for today's massive update preview. We hope you're excited to jump in and face off against this titanic terror. And we're looking forward to seeing how you tackle this new challenge. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We've got another update preview coming out soon all about relics, and you're not going to want to miss that. Until next time.